Hey everyone, welcome to this weekly Sidereal Astrology forecast for the week of November 11th through the 17th of 2024. All right, so this week we have a full moon on Friday. This marks the halfway point of the lunar month. The halfway point is a great time to make shifts and changes along the life journey for the month and really do this status check. We tend to get insights, bigger perspectives on our life, and now how can we pivot? How can we make some shifts and changes to further develop the energy? So the full moon will be right in between proactive Aries and grounded Taurus. So the theme will be on how we can take perhaps more initiative in our life, but at the same time, stopping to smell the roses. Taurus, the bull, reminds us to take things one step at a time and to make sure that we are mustering up that inner strength, inner self-worth, inner self-value in order to move things forward. So with this full moon, it will be conjunct freedom and innovative Uranus. And so a great time to do a status check with how we can bring in a little bit more freedom into our lives and also listen a little bit more to that excitement that our true self really tries to come through with Uranus there. It will be trining up to Pluto as well, so perhaps some empowerment and a willingness to make some transformations. Also around Friday, Saturn, the planet of responsibility and discipline, is going to be going station direct. And so this has been what has been the past 5 months of these things perhaps on the back burner with Saturn retrograde, or just maybe mulling over, maybe redoing the systems and structures we've been building. But this starts to move forward around Friday, give it some time, but a great weekend to start to implement some of those long-term views, some of those things that require patience and perseverance. The aspects are a bit minor this week. We have Mercury squaring Saturn Tuesday, so a grounding mind, good to channel that in healthy ways. Mercury is going to be going into healing a fucus on Thursday. We've already got Mercury in Scorpio, already have that deeper mind, but maybe now thinking more in terms of healing and perhaps communicating in a way that can be quite healing and therapeutic for us and others as well. And then Saturday, we have the Sun opposite Uranus as part of that full moon, so implementing some of that innovativeness, some of that listening to our excitement with that full moon. All right, so let's go and take a look at all of this here in more detail when we return. Alrighty, so I do have an announcement to make. I've been doing these weekly live streams, and this week, unfortunately, I will not be able to make the live stream. So we will not be having a live stream here this week in just a few hours. So I will see you the following week, but just not this week, all right? Yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at the weekly forecast nonetheless. So coming into the week, we've got all the planets in sort of different signs. We've got the sun still in Libra. This really was the theme from the beginning of the lunar month. So about a week and a half, depending on when you're watching this, we started the lunar cycle, and it was right in between Virgo and Libra. And since then, we've been really on the Libra side. So Libra is all about finding balance in our lives. And so it's a really good time to bring things into balance in our own personal lives. But oftentimes with Libra too, there can be a lot of interpersonal stuff as well. Libra is the constellation of justice, of morality, of doing the right thing and bringing things back to an even keel. So a great time to be focused on life in this way, both personally and interpersonally. And and expressing ourselves in this more balanced way as well is always great. Now, Mercury, like I said, is in the underworld. He's in Scorpio. He's going to shift into a fucus around Thursday. So when it comes to our mind and it comes to our communications, there is that deeper energy right now. So it's good to be mindful of that, aware of that. It's great for things like research, the occult, hidden things, bringing things to the surface, but also communicating in a way that's deep, real, raw, intimate with those we're close to, right? There can be that rawness there with the communications also. And Venus is going to be now really coming off of that galactic center, heading into Sagittarius this week. So there has been a transformation to our values last week, perhaps even to our relationships as well. But now this week, we're starting to likely feel that post-transformation. So starting to value a bit of free-spirited energy. Venus and Sag can make us quite want to enjoy adventure, a little bit of expanding our horizons, and also mentally as well. Great to be enjoying things like philosophy, spirituality, things like astrology, etc. And again, perhaps connecting in our relationships through those sorts of areas of life also. Now, Mars is well set in Cancer still, so this will play a role with the full moon being in Aries. But when it comes to our assertiveness, it's good to really be creating a safe and secure environment. There's a lot of protecting energy right now. It's really good to be protective of ourselves, but of course also those we're close to. It's a great time to assert our caring side, to assert our protecting side, our nurturing side, and really, connect to the things and people that are close to us emotionally right now. Even though, we can be very assertive, quite direct, and even a bit self-oriented when it comes to those things. But that can all be done very healthfully right now with Mars there. All right, so that's everything coming into the week. Like I say, coming into the week, we are going to be approaching this full moon. And so we are going to be in this gibbous phase, which is the momentum building phase as we approach Friday. This is the highest energy of the lunar month. So as we continue towards Friday, the increasing of energy, the increasing of that wind in our sails. Now, the moon will be in Pisces for the whole first 3 days of the week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Themes around bringing more peace into our life, themes around more receptivity. Pisces is the constellation of connecting with our soul, connecting with our intuition. And when it's in this more heightened energy, it's really good to incorporate this in our day-to-day life, right? Bring in more peace, maybe spiritual activities, maybe utilize some of that intuitive or creative or spiritual energy of Pisces, and living in a little more of that receptive to life sort of way, being a little more of a receiver of life and figuring out where that current of life is flowing so that we can align to that spiritual current. Now, right in the middle of that Pisces energy on Tuesday, we will have Mercury squaring up to responsible Saturn. So squares do tend to pendulum swing. They tend to go to the over or under extremes. With Mercury, the planet of our mind and communications, in a, let's say, clash with responsible Saturn, there can sometimes be too much of this, maybe seeing things a little bit too densely, too realistically, if you will, and maybe communicating things too harshly as well. On the other side, it can be not enough, maybe not thinking in terms of the long-term view, maybe wanting to be a little more spontaneous but not disciplined, and again, communicating as such as well. So we want to find the middle ground with this. And it's all about being mindful with any square. So how can we incorporate the balanced qualities mindfully of Saturn? And so Saturn wants us to be long-term. In this case, Saturn wants us to think long-term. Saturn wants us to think about responsibilities, to see the long-term view, and to be patient in implementing them, right? Mercury is also about the day-to-day implementation of things. So if there are any delays in the day, anything that feels like it's a step back, just know that it's very likely for the long term. It's likely a very positive thing to help us see that long-term view, help us persevere, build a bit of that strength of character, and but also to build towards that more long-term benefits versus the short-term benefits. So anything that's about thinking this way and also communicating this way is a fantastic way of working with this on Tuesday. And it, again, can be very constructive. So if there's anything you want to channel your mind into, channel your day-to-day activities into, maybe channel some correspondence into, in a way that you are looking at the long term, then this can be a very constructive day here on Tuesday. Now, as we start to get closer to that full moon, that planet Mercury will be going closer to Ophiuchus, the healer constellation, still very much in that deeper world, as we said earlier, but now starting to go closer to Ophiuchus, which is the healer constellation. So our mind's going into the realm of what can be accepted. Really, Ophiuchus is about embracing the deeper qualities of life, or the serpent, which is the serpent bearer, Ophiuchus. So embracing the deeper qualities, embracing the parts of life and ourselves that we've maybe exiled or don't want, have said we're not like that or don't like that or don't want to be like that. These are actually, we are the full spectrum of life. We have it all within us. And a fucus gives us this opportunity to embrace all parts of ourselves. And when we embrace, then it stops exhibiting those unhealthy qualities and starts to exhibit the healthy ones. So a good time to start to think in terms of maybe ways we can embrace more of who we are, communicate more of who we are with a fucus, and again in a raw way, thinking deeply raw but with acceptance. And in those kinds of interpersonal exchanges as well, we could say that perhaps communicating in a way that we're also accepting of others' deeper sides and just the deeper side of life in general. All right, and this can help us again really make sense of this, understand life more, and communicate and interact more on a day-to-day level in a way that is more connected to our, let's say, true selves. Okay. Now with this, the moon will start to get into Aries on Thursday, really gearing up for that full moon on Friday. And so this is going to set the stage for really the active side of it. So a big part of this full moon, again, right in between Aries and Taurus. It's going to be both qualities. Aries is about activating more of that proactive side. So while it's a time of Libra, while it's a time of balance, while it's a time of maybe riding the fence a little bit, it's important to also get off of that fence when it comes to expressing ourselves, right? And in order to have true balance in our life, in order to have true justice, in order to have healthy relationships, we have to be expressing ourselves, right? And so Aries is about expressing that and being willing to take initiative, being willing to listen to our instincts, being willing to be proactive, and getting into some of that fire, right? So great to start to incorporate that probably around Thursday, but again, let's say all surrounding Friday. How can we do a status check with this? How can we check to see, okay, how is that fiery side of ourselves and how can we incorporate that a little bit more? Now with Taurus as well, there is also a grounding element to this. This particular cusp between these two signs deals a lot with self-reliance, still very self-oriented in the sense that it is about mustering up our needs. But Taurus is a little bit more on the side of our values. So what is it that we value? And how can we take steps towards those values? And in a way that's still grounded, right? Still with the fire, we want to combine that earth. And so in a way that's still grounded, taking things one step at a time, slow and steady wins the race with Taurus, the bull. Now, conjunct Uranus, though, there is likely a lot of erratic energy, let's say. Uranus is the constellation of freedom and change and getting outside of our comfort zone, and the full moon will be quite close to this. So it's very much a time to do a status check with really, again, I think this idea of individuality. What is it that's really, that excites us? What is it that is linked to that true self, that part of ourself that listens to our excitement, that wants freedom, that wants change, that wants to challenge the status quo with things, and how can we make some steps with this? Now, a lot of this is likely started in our lives about 6 months ago, if you want to go back to that. So 6 months ago, we had the new moon next to Uranus. And now is the halfway point of this. So there can be steps in the right direction if you want to track back to what was happening exactly 6 months ago when it comes to this sense of freedom, change, and letting out more of that true self. Okay, but doing a status check with that nonetheless. And we've got Pluto trining it, supporting it from what is him now officially entering Capricorn fully now. And so it's all about this sense of empowerment. And I think we do have that sense of willingness to transform, willingness to change, willingness to empower ourselves with this full moon as well. All right, so lots of supportive energy here with it. Good to still challenge ourselves with it. And again, make a pivot and change for our life journey that incorporates some of these conscious qualities. Now also around that full moon time, Saturn will be going direct. This usually takes a little bit of time to build some momentum with, but Saturn's been retrograde the past 5 months, as he always does every year. And this has been the past 5 months of reflecting on what we want to build in life, taking a little more of an internal reflective sort of approach to the things we're building. But now that Saturn's going direct, and there can be shifts with this on Friday, how can we start to incorporate more of these things we want to build. And so for the next 7 months, a great time to incorporate this. Slowly build some momentum. Again, Saturn's about patience, perseverance, looking at the long-term view, and starting to incorporate this structure building in our lives, this building of the things that we know will take time in our life that we want to build towards. All right, so that's going to be also Thursday. And then as we get into the weekend, that Uranus will be opposite the sun as part of the full moon. So we're just going to notice another step in the right direction, probably around Saturday and Sunday when it comes to that sense of freedom and listening more to our true self. And the moon will be in Taurus, activating the Taurus side of the full moon Saturday and Sunday. So stopping to smell the roses, taking things one step at a time, mustering up that inner self-worth, self-value, that inner groundedness. And lastly, as we get into the very late part of Sunday, Mercury will be opposite Jupiter. So as the day unfolds on Sunday, probably getting a bit of an open mind, maybe some insights, seeing the bigger picture. The planet of our regular, everyday, practical thinking of Mercury, opposite to expansive, free-spirited, open-minded Jupiter, can give us a little bit of a rift between these two, but we want to bridge the gap between the two, and it's a great time to do that. So how can we see that bigger picture in the everyday life, and at the same time really be practical with the bigger picture, ground that higher perspective as well. But anyways, that'll be mostly going into Monday, and I'll talk about that next week as well. All right, everyone, so that is the week in a nutshell. It's actually quite straightforward. We've got a full moon on Friday. It's a time of doing a status check, and it's mainly in the context of the past 2 weeks. How have things been going the past 2 weeks, and how can we make some shifts and changes to further our life journey? If you want to reflect on the past 6 months, you can do that as well. It is right in between Aries, the sign of proactivity and assertiveness, and Taurus, the side of groundedness and resourcefulness. How can we muster up this sense of self-expression and also steadiness? Let's say fire and earth, proactivity and groundedness, in order to implement these things. And with Uranus, I would say listen to that excitement, listen to that true self, and we've got a lot of support to do that with Pluto as well. So that's definitely the highlight of the week, the apex of the month, and the shifts and changes around Friday. As we approach that Tuesday, a little bit good to have a good grounded mind with Mercury square Saturn. We've got Mercury going into deep Ophiuchus around Thursday, so maybe a healing mind and healing communications can be great. And then we've got that Saturn direct around the full moon as well, slowly starting to move forward those long-term views. All right, so everyone have a fantastic week. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, there's not going to be a live stream this week, but I will see you next week for both the forecast and the live stream as well. But have a great one, and I'll see you all next time for the next astrology forecast. Take care.